So it's 2023 and you can still build an amazing retro PC for super cheap. I was able to build this DOS, Windows 98 and Windows XP monster for less than $100, and you can too. This machine will play everything from DOS classics right the way up to later XP titles, and yes, it even plays Crysis. Let's check it out. In terms of specs, we're running a Core 2 Duo processor at 3 GHz. We have 4 GB of DDR3 RAM and a 500 GB hard disk. And I picked up the whole machine for $60 shipped. It seems like nobody wants Core 2. Even if I look on eBay right now, I can see many more of these for almost the cost of postage. But as we'll see, Core 2 machines can be excellent for retro gaming. This PC is just the right age, being new enough to really accelerate newer games, but just old enough and with some interesting features that make DOS and Windows 98 work really well. Looking inside, we have an Intel ICH7 Southbridge running on the G41 chipset. There aren't any Windows 98 drivers for the G41, but that's okay because we want to play DOS and Windows 98 games, and for those we'll need to add our own video and sound cards. Looking at the expansion options, we have 1 PCIe and 2 PCI slots. There are myths and rumour that PCIe doesn't work well on Windows 98, and maybe that's true for some hardware, but it works fine for me. The good news is that PCIe cards are super cheap, and I was able to pick up this ATi Radeon X800 XL for $12. This is almost the fastest GPU you can get for Windows 98. There's only one better, and at $12 it's a bargain. Next, we need a sound card, and here we need to be a bit careful because most PCI sound cards don't work well for DOS gaming. After some searching, I was able to find this Yamaha YMF based card, which is great because 1, it has a genuine Yamaha OPL3 chip, so our FM music will be super authentic, and 2, it's known for great DOS compatibility, even with newer machines. Even better, I was able to pick this up for only $10 versus the $50 or so that these normally go for. It's an off-brand variant, and I had to zoom the image on eBay to confirm this is a real Yamaha card. I'm pretty sure the seller had no idea what this was. As a side note, this is proof. There are still eBay bargains out there if you look. Lastly, I picked up this port extender for $10. It attaches to a custom header on the motherboard to give us full PS2 support. Checking on the overall price, we're at $92, still super cheap. Time to get these cards installed and test it out. Right, we're in the BIOS, and this is where we see the first cool feature of this machine. Going to the post behavior section, you can see we have this OS install feature, and it restricts the available memory to 256 megabytes. This is perfect for DOS and Windows 98 that don't play nice with a lot of RAM. So we'll enable that and get on with the Windows 98 install. To get Windows 98 working, I did have to add Rudy Lowe's SATA patch. Without this, Windows would just hang on boot. I also slipstreamed Lone Crusader's chipset information files, which helps tidy up some of the unknown devices in Device Manager. After those tweaks, we're in Windows 98. You've probably noticed the graphics look awful, and that's because we're in 640 by 480 16 color mode. We need some graphics drivers. After installing the Catalyst 6.2 drivers and rebooting, I did run into some weirdness. The Radeon GPU was detected but not working. I had to select and remove the extra entry for standard display adapter, one more reboot, and we're good to go. A quick Direct3D check and our spinning cube looks good. I know we're itching to see performance numbers, but first, sound. A quick install of the Yamaha DSX-G drivers, a reboot, and then... One of the awesome things with this card is the general MIDI synth. It supports XG MIDI and it sounds super great. Give this a listen. Checking the control panel, we can find these DOS settings. We can use these for playing DOS games in Windows. Let's give it a test with Doom. Another awesome thing with a machine like this, it crushes high-end DOS games like Duke Nukem 3D, Blood and Quake. Right here we have Quake running in software rendering at 800 by 600. I love software rendering and it's never looked so good, running at a locked 60 frames per second. Some of these games perform badly on DOSBox and this PC will blow those away. Next up, let's try native DOS. Now this gets us onto cool hardware feature number 3. This sound card has some Yamaha magic in the form of DS-DMA, a program that emulates the ISA-DMA from legacy sound cards, and it allows us to get audio in native DOS. Running the program, we get a port, an IRQ, and DMA. It looks promising and because this has a real OPL3, the ad-lib audio is super authentic. This is how your DOS games are supposed to sound. On the lower end, games like Commander Keen, Prince of Persia, even Alley Cat work well. In fact, most of the DOS games I threw at this worked great. A few went too fast. By using CPU speed, I was able to throttle down the CPU, turn off caches, and even get tricky games like Theme Park to run great. Now, at last, it's time for some benchmarks. In Windows 98, 3D Mark 99 hits 38,612 at 800 by 600, and 3D Mark 2001 hits 33,311. A Quake 2 time demo hits 972.4 frames per second, and Unreal 497.3. These are lofty numbers. To get a sense of speed, here's how Quake 2 runs if you forget to enable VSync. Fast enough? Across the board, Windows 98 performance is really great. So where's the ceiling with this machine? To find that, we need to move up to Windows XP. First up, return to Castle Wolfenstein. This runs flawless at 60 frames per second, even at high resolutions. Moving up one notch, Half-Life 2 also plays great. And also, by the way, still looks amazing. I'm running at full 1080p here and the frame rate still holds up. A bit trickier to run, Doom 3 and those stencil shadows still runs great at high settings, only starting to suffer a bit once we push up to Ultra. Finally, and we have to do this, does it run Crysis? We have to drop the resolution a bit, but it does hold up. We're running at 800 by 600 medium settings and the frame rate is good. In fact, I got distracted enough to play through the entire first mission. Crysis is still the king. Now we're playing with power, and we're also playing cheap because the total cost of this PC is only $92. Right, time for the big reveal. What is this miracle machine? Drum roll please. There you have it, an ugly Dell Optiplex, and there are hundreds of these available on eBay for almost no money. Jokes aside, I've grown to love this machine because of what it can do. Play my favourite games from 1990 through to 2010. I even have a Voodoo 3 on order and will try to get native glide working on this retro rocket. What are your thoughts? Are you inspired to do your own ugly retro build? What's your thoughts on old Dell machines? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Enjoy!